Good night, viewers, and welcome to this another program of Advancing the Cause. This program comes to you every Wednesday night from 18:30 hours to 20 hours. The official host of this program is the Honorable Coretta McDonald, AA, MP, and General Secretary of the Guyana Teachers Union. My name is Dennis Jaikaran, and I'm the host for this program tonight. But let me at this stage tender an apology for the absence of the Honorable Coretta McDonald, who is otherwise engaged. Joining us tonight would be two distinguished gentlemen. And later on, I'm going to formally introduce them. But for us to better understand that the discourse or the topic for this discourse tonight would be the decline of the regional and local government system under the PPP. As we would have said on this program time and again, our topics are guided by persons who call in to this program, who call in to us and to make suggestions and recommendations. And so, based on what we would have received from our last gathering or session with you to this session tonight, we would have recognized that the demand would have been there for us to be able to discuss this topic, the decline in the regional and local government system under the PPP. So tonight, joining me would be, as I said early on, two distinguished gentlemen. And I want to first of all introduce to you and to welcome the first guest. That would be the Honorable Ganesh Maipal, Member of Parliament, member of the Central Executive of the People's National Congress, and he is the Shadow Minister for Regional Development and Local Government. MP, I now welcome you to this discourse tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sir Dennis. And viewers will have to understand that I have to address you as Sir Dennis because of the history we share coming from the Essequibo Coast, Region 2, where you once served as a distinguished teacher. And I happen to have been one of your, I would like to say, good student. And also, you have a long history in the teaching fraternity. And not only that, but I think people should know also that I had the distinct pleasure of working with you in the Essequibo Islands, West Demerara region, region number 3, during the coalition 5 year in office, the 2015 to 2020 period, where I served as your special assistant and regional information officer. So we have a long history there. And I must also say, before we get into the meat of the program, that my knowledge and my understanding of the local government system and the regional development system is mainly attributed towards you giving me that exposure. And I don't think I ever had the opportunity to say thank you. So I'm going to use this platform tonight to tell you thank you. And I believe that this topic, you could have handled it single handedly, and there was no need for myself or your other guest. But I can understand our presence here, and I look forward for a very good discussion with you, my former teacher, my former boss, and with the fullest of respect, I will from time to time say Ario or Sir Dennis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MP Ganesh. And so I want to, since you would have acknowledged and you would have thanked me publicly, I want to also thank you publicly for the services that you would have rendered while I served as RU Region 3, Esquibo Islands, West Demerara. And so, MP, tonight we want to share this discourse in a way in which we would want the public, our viewers, to better understand not only the system, but the decline in where we would have set a standard and there's total decline of that. And so I want to first of all speak to you or to ask you, you are the member of parliament with special responsibilities for the Esguibo Islands, West Demerara, region number 3. And so, MP, I'm going to ask you based on the appropriation for that particular region for 2024, and this is the month of October. Tell the viewers, what is it that is happening in Region 3? But let us, at this stage, don't make the comparison yet to show that what the coalition would have done up to October in any of the years that we would have been there, or all the years, where they are now as it relates to the PSIP, that we would have been far more advanced than that. Take us through, MP, the stages as to what are some of the non-developmental projects that would have failed them or they would have failed the people of Region 3.
You know, Ario, you are an expert at this. And it is a good position I'm in because I'm now given the opportunity to demonstrate how much I have learned from you. But let me start off by telling the viewership that PSIP means Public Service Improvement Plan. PSIP. And that is the
The measuring
measure.
instrument.
Yes, that
Yes.
is the measuring instrument to determine how well a budgetary agency is expending the taxpayers' money for the benefit of the taxpayers after the budgetary items were laid in the National Assembly and approved. So when you plan your budget and you identify projects that you will execute, you have a time frame in which you ought to execute it. And that budget covers a fiscal year. Under the coalition, we know the fiscal year was from January to December, and the PPP is now adopting that. Prior to 2015, you would recall, budget used to pass in March or April thereabout, and then is when that fiscal year begins. The coalition, in its attempt to have a structured approach to capture the calendar year with the fiscal year, moved the budgetary spending and approving the budgetary approving and spending period from January to
Mhm.
December, to which this government is has kept. Sadly, I didn't hear them criticizing that because they seem to believe they could criticize everything as bad. But the PSIP requires you to spend in such a way so that when it comes down to October, we're in November, December, you don't do force to do everything. You don't have to come to the regional tender board to approve projects that were so could have been approved in September or August or July or June, and you don't allow everything to back up on you for the last quarter of the year, because that way it presents a series of malpractices, and it opens the door for greater levels of corruption when you have to fight to basically get rid or get out all of these monies that you did not utilize during the period, let's say January to September. And managing the PSIP is very important because that is how you measure the improvements in the region. And that is also a determining factor when it comes to the next year, so that you can able to defend why is it that your region should get more money to do more projects. So if you can show the National Assembly or the Ministry of Finance that you are able to spend your money prudently within the ambits of the financial laws, and you are able to achieve a high percentage of project execution on your PSIP, whether you're in the 90s, 98, 99%, then you have a good case to justify why you ought to have more monies to expend in your region. But if you don't have that record and you don't have that prudent financial management skill to execute and to ensure that you satisfy a full PSIP in terms of percentage, then you fail as a leader. Right now in region number 3, I am guided by my connections there that their PSIP is at 56%, which is just above half of the budgetary sum that was allocated to them. In my view, given the 5 years of experience that I have, understanding the PSIP and how it ought to work, I would say that that is an F grade, because you cannot be in October month knowing that the budget was passed since February and your PSIP is just at 56%. It should have been at a higher percentage. And that could only mean that the REO, current REO there, is waiting on crunch time to push in a lot of projects to give it to their friends, families, and favorites. And it is a breeding ground for corruption, for abnormalities, and illegalities. And that is why we are keeping a close eye on how the works are being executed, who are the persons that are executing those works, and what are their connections to the People's Progressive Party. Now, I need to make this significant point. You can be a friend of the PPP, it doesn't bother me. Or you can be a friend of any political organization. But if you are going to be awarded a contract, or you're going to be handpicked or chosen to do a work, that is wrong. But if you're going to be awarded a contract through the normal procedure, where the projects are advertised, where you put in a tender, where when the opening of the tender happens, you satisfy the initial criteria, which is to ensure that you're compliant. That is to have your NIS compliance, your GRA compliance, your business registration. The documents are signed and submitted as per instructions. Once you satisfy that initial criteria, it then moves into the phase of evaluation. And if you are properly evaluated and you are determined as the lowest, most responsive bidder, then and awarded, then I can understand and respect the fact that you were given a contract, irrespective of being a friend of the PPP. But the system that this region and the country by extension, the system that they have right now is, first of all, there is the evaluation committee that is secretly appointed, and it constitutes people who are aligned to the People's Progressive Party, and then they are being instructed by members of the tender board on how to evaluate and what to look for and what not to look for and what recommendation to send to the tender board. And then the tender board moves to make the award to a friend, a family, or a favorite. That is not what the procurement system envisaged. That is not what the procurement system, the procurement laws were made to facilitate. But these people are taking advantage of what we now recognize as loopholes in the Procurement Act of 2003. I know, Sir Dennis, for the 5 years that we have been there at that region, every time advertisements go out into the dailies, and people bring in their tenders. It goes into a box that is well secured, and the holders of the keys to that particular tender box has always been one PPP member of the tender board and one
Correct.
APNU AFC member of the tender board. At no time did two APNU AFC member hold the keys to that tender board. And if my memory serves me correctly, it was Mr. Ahmad. I can't remember his first name, the PPP
Yes,
counselor.
the PPP councillor and
Yes,
representative on the
Ahmad.
tender board.
He was the a fine fella that has a shop at Vreeden Hoop there.
The
He
cell
was
phone
the
shop at Reading Hope.
yes, the cell phone shop. That was the PPP counselor that always had the keys to the tender board from the PPP side. And the other member who had the keys was Harry Deokinan, I think was
That's
he
the
had
person.
yes,
And he was an
he
AFC councillor on
and
the
he was an
coalition.
AFC councillor. So the only way that tender box can open on the day of opening of tender, that AFC councillor and that PPP councillor had to be there to turn the keys to open the padlocks because there were two padlocks, and then we would take out those envelopes. When we take out those envelopes, we will move with them in an open, transparent way into the boardroom in the presence of all the bidders. All the bidders. Then we would normally
Number each
categorize
tender
them.
based on which project is to be
Yes.
awarded.
Yes, we will categorize them based on the tenders that they would have bid for, whether it's lot one, lot two, lot three, whether it's health, education, agriculture, public works, we would categorize them. And all of this is done in the open public eyes. The tender, the bidders are there observing how it's happening. And then we would,
But MP,
when we
MP, not to MP, not to cut you, that the chief accountant was always there from the sub treasury. The state auditors were always there, and the other internal auditors were there as observers.
yes, and I mention all of that so that people can understand the level of transparency, the level of accountability, the level of good governance in region number three during those years when it came to the whole aspect of awarding of contracts. I challenge the REO now and challenge anybody from Region 3 now to appear before us and tell us that that is the same system they have. They don't have that same system. Members of the tender board currently are complaining bitterly about favoritism, about special selection. They're complaining about calls being made to evaluation committee members and telling them what to do and directing who should get contract and who should not get contract. So the system is not proper right now. In fact, I should let you know, Sir Dennis, that in terms of the members who sit on the tender board, they're all PPP members. We did not have that in our time. In our time, we respected the Procurement Act and we allowed for one member from the APNU AFC and one member from the PPP to sit on the tender board. But I think our time there were two. There were two PPP members and three APNU AFC members that were sitting on the tender board. But the point is,
But don't,
there is no degree of inclusivity, there's no degree of good governance, there's no degree of accountability, there's no degree of transparency. It's full corruption in its glory right now under the People's Progressive Party, there in Region 3 and across the entire country.
and so that is as a result of where they are now in relation to the percentage
PSIP.
52, 54% at the level of the PSIP. Recall, Member of Parliament, that when I'm not feathering my cap, but we need to record and to be able to report on our stewardship. And so you would recall that our target would have been that at the end of October, all capital projects had to be completed. The only remaining payments to be made would have been the period of defects and liability period. Only that would have left there to be paid. And for the month of December, only statutory payments, minor traveling, salaries, and basic spending. And so by the 15th of December, we were able to complete both capital and recurrent expenditure. And so it is not happening now. They are ashamed to produce the PSIP of these regions, and it is dismal. Region 3 might be at 54,
56.
but places like Region 7, Region 8,
But
Region 9,
you see, Sir Dennis, well, I didn't do the comparison just now because you said to me not to do the comparison as yet. But I know that all your years as REO, when you go to finance to justify your PSIP, your public sector improvement plan, you were able to achieve 100% expenditure. I think there was a particular year you had 99.9%, and that 0.1% was because of the earliness they called you to justify, and that one
to do
percent
that.
was,
You're
yeah,
right,
the one
exactly.
percent, the 0.1% was really the statutory expenditure of
Expenditure.
salaries. So, but I want you to understand that sometimes these measures that are these shortcomings, as we may see it, in terms of management at the level of the system, the public sector, may not be only due to incompetence, but it can very well be an act of ensuring corruption is facilitated so that their pockets can be filled. You see, Sir Dennis, as I said earlier, when these kind of things happen, they they aid and abet to nurturing corruption. Because
Yes, correct.
can you imagine having to execute 15 projects in 1 month, capital projects in 1 month? Do you know, well, you know, I shouldn't say you know the amount of work that would have to be done there to get it advertised, to stick within the statutory period in the newspaper. I think 2 weeks. Uh, to invite bids to come in, I think you have to have it 2 weeks also for them to drop in the bids and all the system that I went through just now. That is a cumbersome process if it's allowed to constrain itself within a couple of months. So the easiest way to do it is to dub the projects um, as emergency work, to call in for that three-court system corrupt practice, and then award it to a favorite of yours, a friend of yours, or a
Yes,
family member of yours. And in return, they have to give you back 10%, as we are told. We are guided, it's 10%. Some people are telling us that others are collecting as much as 15% of the
15%.
contract
Yes,
sum. But the point I'm making is that this regime is facilitating, aiding and abetting and encouraging, enhancing corruption at all levels, regional level, NDC level, and the central government level. And it is the people of Guyana who have to have the final say. Because look, 4 years now we have been feeling oil money. 4 years now, this country has been drawing down on the oil wealth. And everybody must look at themselves in the mirror. Every ordinary, hardworking, tax-paying Guyanese must take a look at themselves in the mirror and ask themselves, have you felt an improvement in your life with this amount of wealth our country has right now? Do you have more disposable income at your disposal? Are you able to enjoy more social activities with your families? Are you able to go to the mall and walk and shop? Are you able to go into the market and buy at your pleasures? Or are you faced with a difficulty at spending your money because of high cost of living, which seems to not be a front burner issue of the People's Progressive Party? Or are you having difficulties sending your three children to school because of the increase in everything that they need and the basic amenities for survival? You are finding it difficult to purchase. Ask yourself those questions and let that be your convincing measurement or argument as you approach the polls whenever elections are called. And you must remember that when the APNU AFC came to government in 2015, one of the first measure that we took was to move minimum wage from $39,000 to $50,000. In fact, one of the first measures we took in December of that same year, 2015, was to give a one-off bonus of $50,000 to every public servant. And then we added a 10% increase on their salaries. We moved the minimum wage to $50,000. And then we moved the income tax threshold. It was 46,000. I think we moved it to 55,000. And when we left office, the lowest paid person in the public service that was receiving $35,000 under the People's Progressive Party, in 2020, when we left office, that was doubled. And they began to receive $70,000. So the improvement, the investment, the advancement of lifting poor people out of the struggles they were in at the time of 2015 May, they can comfortably tell themselves that in 2020 they were far way better. And we not only improved their salaries, but you remember there was the Bertram Collins College of the Public Service,
Service.
where we were training people who want to come into the public service for them to know how to deal with the public. So these piggish people that the PPP are bringing in now, that are friends, families, and favorites of theirs, some of them unqualified and not fit for the respective offices that they hold now, that speaks to people in a manner of which one is left to conclude as though they are not speaking to human beings. They don't understand what it is to deliver a service. I say to people, you have an opportunity to do a comparison. Bear in mind, under the coalition, there was no oil money, not a cent from oil that we could have invested in our people. But yet, from 2015 to 2020, we were able to restore a degree of decency, a degree of honesty, a degree of workmanship, that you can promote each other and be kind and generous in an environment. There was lots more we had to do, but for that short period of time, the impact we had on the public service, do that comparison with what you have now, and you will be able to see the difference. And as we see Wainwright McIntosh there, mayor of New Amsterdam, we will talk later about the local government system and what is going on. But I close this part by saying to you, Sir Dennis, people must do that comparison. And I am sure without a doubt they will consciously vote for the APNU AFC come next election.
Thank you very much, MP. But before I introduce my other guest, let me just make two observations. One, that the works, because we are talking Region 3, because you are the regional representative MP of Region 3. But as we come later, I'm going to invite other members of parliament for the different regions so that the same discourse can go through, so that people would have a better understanding of the failed um, local government regional development system under this PPP. But the 2 points I want to make, one would be that you recall that the Works Committee of Region Number 3, Esquivo Islands, West Demerara, consisted of 5 persons. And the observations would have been three. One, every Thursday they were provided with their own transportation from the regional administration. They were given a list of projects and they
Specially
would choose
assigned
where
to
they
them.
want to go,
Specially
not
assigned
guided
to
by the
them.
REO or the regional engineer. And the chairperson of that works committee was a member of the PPP. And so they found no fault of any of those projects because from the very beginning we did what was correct. And the other thing I want to say is that you would recall at the Public Accounts Committee, when Region 3 was called the last time, I don't recall who was the officer said that they established at the West Demerara Hospital a drugs bond. And on one of these programs, I corrected it, and I'm correcting it now, that drugs bond was established under the stewardship of the coalition government without calling any name.
And there's another
And
point
so
too.
I want the viewers to know that even while they go to Public Accounts Committee, they spew information that is far from the truth.
I have been in conversation with you and Julius Faber, who served as the PPP chairman at the time, even Inshan Ayub, who's Irfan Ali's uncle and the current regional chairman, vice chairman at that time, where they praised you on numerous occasions for your good stewardship. So nobody can't come and tell me about the coalition years under the APNU AFC at Region 3. Because if Julius Faber, Inshan Ayub, Paul Singh, who was the works committee person from Stewartville there, or Bishpati from was
High
the
flood.
village D.
D.
William village.
William.
If
Yes.
Bishpati from D. William or Ranjina from Tushin or name them, the PPP, all of them, they had great respect and admiration for you and the way you led the region. And the AP and UAFC councillors also had great admiration and respect for the way you administered the region as REO. And without a doubt, those were probably the best 5 years ever in region number 3 under a coalition government. And
Government.
one of the most important points, which I think we will get deeper into, there were no interference by central government in the way you were administering the region as REO and how Faber and the chair and as chairman of the region in terms of the councillors, the RDC, there were no interference by central government, none whatsoever. I remember, and you would recall, when Faber used to get, I think it was 10 gallons
15
of
gallons of
fuel,
gas at per day.
was 15 gallons?
15 before I went to Region 3.
Yes, 15 gallons of gas per day to drive around all over. He was going to Region 5. He was going living in Canal number 1 at the time, going helter-skelter at a house. When he was doing all of those gallivanting with nothing to do with government work, 15 gallons of gasoline a day. I want people to understand that number. That is what he was utilizing. I remember when you told him, I said, listen, that vehicle you have there is not for joyride. It is to do the work relating to your office and it is to do work relating to this region. And I think you had cut it to 7 gallons, if I'm not
No,
mistaken.
I did. When I arrived on the one there, I recognized that it was 15 gallons. So when that ISR came to me to sign off, I refused to sign it And I said to the driver that with effect from today, this vehicle is going to get 5 gallons per day, only on working days. No Saturday, no Sunday, no
Yes.
holiday. And he brought a number of persons, 6 or 8 persons to protest. But he didn't know that the PNC was there to conquer that protest with over 113 persons.
Yes, I remember, I remember. But
Yes,
the point I'm
yes,
making, Sir Dennis, is that they were abusing the system. Faber and the
yes,
others were abusing the system. And that is what they're enjoying now, a total abuse of the system. They're using taxpayers' money, they're using government resources to enrich themselves. They are doing it to satisfy their friends and families. And the ordinary, hardworking citizens of this country, they are not allowed to benefit from the abundance of wealth that we have.
that's true. MP, let us come to, we can do two things in one at this stage. I want to first of all welcome our second guest, His Worship, the Lord Mayor of the Tongue of New Amsterdam, Comrade Wainwright McIntosh.
Thank
Welcome,
you very
sir.
much. Thank you very much, Comrade Jaikaran, MP. It's a pleasure joining you, gentlemen, here this evening, MP Ganesh. Um, and I bring you greetings from the beautiful tongue of New Amsterdam. Thank you
From
for
the
having me.
east, you
Yes,
bring us
thank
greetings from the east.
from the east. Yes, from the
Yeah.
east.
They say
And
wise
and
men
and
come from the east, eh?
wise men come from the east.
Yes, that is true. If we're to
Yes,
go back to Bible times, yes, that's correct.
yes. But recently, one of the wise men betrayed people in this country. Maybe it might be our
From the
teachers. I
east.
don't know. I
One of
don't
them from the
recall.
east.
That wise man might have come from the east. I don't know. I don't recall. But Mayor, welcome. And
Thank
so
you
I'm
so much.
happy that we have Member of Parliament, Ganesh Bhai Paul, who is the Shadow Minister for local government and regional development. And so I want to put to you two questions that might take the entire program. But I know
Go
you
on.
wouldn't take the entire program. The first thing I want you as mayor, Lord Mayor of the tongue of New Amsterdam, to explain to the viewing, to our viewers, how is it you became mayor the tongue of New Amsterdam? Let us go through the process and see how you would have arrived there. And then I take you into the other question.
All right, thank you so much. First of all, my groundwork would have started during church. My grandmother was a staunch Christian, and so it was mandatory for me to participate in the activities of the church via community outreach, different social activities. So that foundation was there from the onset through the Pathfinder and Master Guide Club, etc. However, fast tracking in 2018, I would have decided to see the need to effect change within my community. That's constituency 5 from 43 Stanley Town to Pope Street, New Amsterdam South. I contested in the local government elections. I won the constituency with flying colors. I'm very grateful for the support given from citizens of constituency 5. It's a joy and pleasure to be of service to those citizens there and by extension the entire township of New Amsterdam. Now, having won that constituency at the local government elections in 2018, I was elected mayor, I was elected deputy mayor of the town of New Amsterdam There, I worked under the stewardship of the then mayor, Her Worship Miss Winifred Yearwood. She would have actually nurtured me under her wings to ascend to higher leadership roles within this region, more so the municipality. So I served as deputy mayor of New Amsterdam from 2018 to 2023 when we went into the last local government elections. Now, during the last local government elections, I was the only candidate who had two other competitors with me vying for this constituency, Constituency 5. Um, so, by virtue of that, it was a test of my personality, character, and my ability to go on to serve the citizens of this great town of New Amsterdam. Now, my two competitors, I would have invited them to um, take up leadership roles within Constituency 5. I offered both individuals an opportunity to be the candidate under the APNU banner going into the local government elections. One of the candidates, I would have given that candidate the list to garnered support by way of signatories of persons living in the constituency. That citizen came back to tell me, okay, they're not persons are not willing to sign the form, etc. The other person would have indeed solicited signatories or signatures from citizens within constituency 5. So I was prepared to more than lend support to both of those individuals. However, one of the individuals ended up running as an individual candidate, surprisingly, and the other individual, on no uncertain terms, would have said she wished to um, have her name off of the list. Nevertheless, I'm committed to serve. So there and then, I realized the need for me to really and truly contest in the last local government elections as a constituency candidate. At the polls, I was successful. Special thanks to the citizens of New Amsterdam, in particularly citizens living within the constituency 5 area and its environs. I wish to thank those persons for placing that confidence in me. So there and then, at the close of polls, I was successful at the polls as a result of the support given. And after there, I was elected to serve as the mayor of New Amsterdam. I'm humbled to be serving as mayor of New Amsterdam at this particular juncture. Very interesting time in our country's history where we're deemed the fastest growing economy in the world. And so, with that optimism, um, I quickly accepted to serve as the mayor of New Amsterdam.
And so there you are as mayor of the town of New Amsterdam. All
Yes.
right.
So, my
Thank you
point to
very
you,
much.
yeah,
Yes,
while you thank me, Comrade Jaikaran, I was not handpicked and placed in a position.
I was
The
just going
persons
to
in the
ask you that follow up.
constituency,
That
yeah,
is what
Yes,
Dennis was getting at. You are elected.
yes.
From the
So
time
you
he
were
yes,
not
asked you the question, I know that
pitchforked
is what
into
he
a
was getting at.
situation. You were
yes,
not pitchforked there into that
definitely,
position,
correct.
right? You were elected by the people, for the people, and you are now serving in the capacity as mayor of the town of New Amsterdam, right?
Yes, that's true.
So now that you have set the record straight, how is it you arrived there? I want to come back to Member of Parliament Ganesh Paul, who is also, and I keep repeating because for emphasis, things that are to come, you emphasize
Yes.
the shadow minister for local government and regional development. MP, you would have been in parliament since 2020. And so you are there. So it is that at particular times, maybe in July thereabout, that parliament goes into recess and then it is going to be reconvened. I am told, and I very well believe that parliament will be convened for this session tomorrow. And so take us through what is it that for this reconvening of parliament, what is it that is there for the viewers to understand?
Well, Parliament will reconvene tomorrow, as you rightly said. We go into recess on the 10th of August every year, and we come out of recess on the 10th of October every year. So that 2 months period is designated as the parliamentary recess period. We are coming out of recess tomorrow, and Irfan Ali is expected to address the parliament. I don't know what he's coming to speak to us about. This will be his second attempt to speak to the parliament and by extension Guyana. His first attempt was a failed one. It was one that still people can't understand what he was saying. Outside of the fact that he is not a good orator and he doesn't communicate well with the public, the fact of the matter is that when he says something, there is no guarantee that that comes into being or is practiced. So, what the People's Progressive Party is basically good at is saying one thing and doing the other. So they will talk about fixing this and fixing that, but when they go into practice, they do the most evil and demonic things. And I think Irfan is coming tomorrow really to get sympathy support. I think he's coming to renew a sense of communication and linkage with the population that has lost them. Because for the 4 years they have been in government, outside of the country um, being faced with a series of corrupt practices and the country being plundered into a state of uh, lawlessness, there is this need for him, knowing that elections are just around the corner. There is this need for him to use all avenues available to bond or rebond. And there is this need for him to come and create this facade, this need for him to create this false illusion of hope. And that is what he will seek to do because the People's Progressive Party believes that the people of Guyana are gullible and they believe that we will fall for that trickery. But for 4 years, we have looked at how they administered government in this country. For 4 years, we have looked at how they have been very selective in their operations, especially with the awarding of contracts. We have seen for 4 years how they have disturbed the entire regional and local government system. We have seen how they have inputted themselves at those levels and tried to be dictators through their respective REOs and clerk of councils, overseers and so on, and town clerks. And people are sensible now more than ever People are more educated now than ever. People are more exposed to information now more than ever. And people have a greater sense and appreciation for the independence that they enjoy now because of the exposure. Thanks to the coalition, because the internet access in the rural communities really began to take its form and expand through Cathy Hughes when she was Minister of Public Telecommunications, opening various internet hubs all over the place, and accessibility to information in Region 2, Region 1, Region 6, Region 5, and so on became easier. You know, I remember, Sir Dennis, a particular time in the history of this country when the newscasts used to carry crimes. You know, they had a segment called Crimes, and a particular race of people you used to see all the time. And I'm going to be honest, a lot of Afro Guyanese you were seeing all the time. And I was living in Essequibo at that time, and we were catching only channels 65 and 69. And the news network was from 65. It was called News Update. And I know, Sir Dennis, you can relate to what I'm saying here. And every time this news update comes on at 6:30 or 7:30, I think it's 6:30 in the afternoon, and they would go through the news and then they come to crime alert. Only Georgetown Magistrate Court they would advertise as the crime hub. Well, not crime hub, they will advertise as the hub where the criminals are or the alleged criminals. And there's one particular race, Afro Guyanese people you used to see. You used to see this one is charged for stealing something, this one is charged for stealing something else, this one is charged for fighting, and a whole, but only one particular race. And the message that people in the country areas like Region 2, I would go as far as to say Region 5 and 6 used to receive, is as though there's no other race that is guilty of committing offenses. But little did people know that Georgetown and Region 4 predominantly Afro Guyanese live there. But the advent of technology now, and I'm linking it here, the advent of technology, the exposure of internet access, and everybody having a smartphone, they're able now to pick up their phone as quickly as possible and video something, and they're able to send it to these news agencies, or they're able to put it themselves on social media, whether it's Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram, name it. And you are now seeing in Essequibo, for example, Indian people being charged for offenses. You're seeing in Berbice, Indian people charged for offenses. In Region 1, you're seeing Amerindian people being charged for offenses. The point I am making, sir, is that it was always a case where people of various ethnicities are guilty of committing offenses and are charged by the police for committing offenses. But the spread of information exists now. The spread of information educate the nation. The spread of information, the ability to decipher is easier now because people are seeing it for themselves. When you look at the CPL cricket, they were promoting it as though it was a good and glorious game. Yay! And then we saw other people sharing videos of fights that were happening. I think I saw 3 or 4 fights at different locations happening. They ain't showcasing that, you know. So they
No.
believe it was a flawless or a victorious move and it had nothing of hiccups and so on. That is the point I'm making, Sir Dennis. Education and improving people and getting people to understand the ills of society now is easier. And any attempt by Irfan Ali tomorrow to try and hoodwink this nation, or any attempt by him to try and fool the people, to say things when they know it's not true, will be met with strict repulsion. the people themselves will repel it. The people themselves will say, "What nonsense are you talking? You would not understand the poor people's plight because you are rich and you're living the rich life. You are enjoying everything free of cost, so you don't understand what is it the ordinary people are faced with. He doesn't understand the cost of living and how it's affecting the ordinary people, because whatever he wants he gets, and he is able to assemble his friends, families, and favorites at State House, feed them the best of food, give them the best to drink, and then they deliberate with them on knowing how contracts will be distributed. Whilst the ordinary man on the street, they are struggling to make ends meet. They are
True.
struggling to go into the market to buy their basic amenities. The essentials for survival is tough on them. Corruption is rampant because of friends, families, and favorites. $7 billion in contract went to one person, Bobby Ramroop, for the supply of pharmaceuticals, and there were 10 other persons who bid. All 10 were East Indians that complained bitterly to me about them being disenfranchised. So I am saying to you, Sir Dennis, I'm saying to your viewers that our people are sensible. They know what is it that they're faced with. They are able to decipher easily, and it is not an easy task for someone to stand at a microphone and try to say something that is totally untrue to what the reality is. And I think that is what Irfan Ali is going to attempt to do tomorrow: seek sympathy, support for his level of stupidity as president. He seems to not have a command on the system. He seems to be pushing for corruption to even get bigger. And people are recognizing that they cannot change the reality. And the reality is that the people on the ground are suffering. They're not feeling the wealth of this country. Only a handful of people are getting rich. Everybody is exposed to information. And I am sure without a doubt, 2025, the Guyanese people will speak through their votes and vote them out of office.
Thank you very much, MP. But I want to make two observations. One is that some time ago, I was reliably informed by a senior police officer that whenever they make an arrest on the ground, whoever, whether it is an Afro Guyanese or an Indo Guyanese, from the onset, they know by recognition what is the ethnicity. But he would have told me that when they take that person, that Afro Guyanese person to the station, and they remove that wig from his head, it is not an Afro Guyanese, it is an Indo Guyanese. So, the point I want to make based on what was said by that police officer is that these persons of Indo Guyanese descent, they go, they do their mischief, but they insert on their heads a wig that would tell people that it is an Afro Guyanese. So I want the public to know that the police are very well aware of that. The second point I want to make is that they have been instructed to do what is known as profiling. And so once you see little groups, they call them gangs. They say, go out and find that gang. But it's not gang. It is young people gathering to share ideas. But they are met with this level of profiling, and the police, as alleged, are instructed to make the necessary arrests based on profiling. So I thought it fit that I should make those 2 points in relation to that. Now that you have set the record straight as what is going to happen tomorrow, and then early on you make mention about those town clerks and those REOs and those overseers of NDCs, that were pitchforked into position, not an elected mayor like our comrade here, Wainwright McIntosh. I now want to put to him this scenario or question, so to speak. Mayor, can you explain to the viewers of this program of recent what would have been your situation on the council as it relates to, let me start with the motion and you take it there for us.
Thank you very much, Comrade Jaikaran. So, at our last statutory meeting, a motion was brought to the table to suspend one of the People's Progressive Party councillor, Councillor Carol Trimbagot. Now, when this motion was brought to the table, as the chair for the meeting, I would have encouraged debates from both sides of the House, from the PPP side and from the APNU side of the House. I encourage a healthy debate coming from both sides. At the end of the process, the motion was put to a vote, and the motion was in keeping with the Municipal and District Laws, Chapter 2801, and it is under Rule 9, Rule 9H, which states a motion for the suspension of a member. Now, under Rule 9, it states the following motion may be made without notice. The following motion may be made without notice, and that is where Rule 9H came into play, which states a motion for the suspension of a member, and that is Rule 9. Now, based on that motion, I entertained the debates, and full council would have participated in that debate. Councillors present at our last statutory meeting from both the PNC, APNU side and the PPP side. After which, the motion was put to a vote. Ultimately, the motion was carried as a result of the voting process. Hence, what I'm seeing happening in the media, the mayor of New Amsterdam is being deemed a bully. The narrative that is being put out there, the mayor suspended the councillor. Now, on no uncertain terms, Mayor McIntosh did not went into the chambers of the municipality and to say, Comrade Jaikaran, you're suspended. You're suspended for the life of the council. No, that wasn't the process. Due process was followed. And because due process was followed, I'm surprised to note the various articles in sections of the media, even the press conferences, coming down from right up from the national level, spiraling down to the Regional Democratic Council, we would have had some comments putting the mayor of New Amsterdam in a negative light. Which brings me to this next point. Persons are not au fait with the functioning of the municipality. Even some councillors are not au fait with their roles and responsibilities. They are not au fait with the bylaws, chapter 2801, meeting procedures. So that is what's happening as we speak within the township of New Amsterdam, and by extension on social media. And you know, we're living in a global community. So when these untruths are being spewed by PPP operatives, it sort of failed to address the legitimacy of the situation.
Yes, so you would have responded to that, but let me say that I agree with you fully that counselors are not quite aware of what are the things laid out in 2801. And as far as I know, that there is nowhere in 2801 that would have given any mayor single-handedly an opportunity to suspend any councillor. That right is not vested anywhere in 2801. So what would have happened, and I'm trying to help to explain your position, where blame is now cast on you, so that our viewers would have a better understanding that due process, as you would have explained, would have been followed. And in this case, the motion came because it was not a motion of notice. It came from the floor as guided by 2801.
Definitely.
It was debated, strongly debated from both sides because they participated. The PPP
Correct.
participated in it. And then you follow, or you went to the next stage. How do we determine whether this motion that would have been put to council, how is it we can be able to apply the principles both in the different clauses of the motion, the whereas clauses and be it resolved clauses. And once you would have dealt with that in the debate, and once you would have allowed for the voting process to take place, it can never be, and I want our viewers to know, as you would have explained, that that was not a decision of the mayor. It is a council's decision
Correct.
following the rules of 2801. And you point out exactly to 9H of that 2801 that speaks to motion that can be put to the House
Without
without
notice.
notice. And you would
Yeah.
have done that. If
Yes.
what they are saying, and let the media have their day, let them have their day, but you know what you would have done would have been the correcting, following the rules. And some people do not like the rule books. They
Um,
adhere to unscrupulous things for their own end value. And once
Yeah.
you do that, then you are not in any way or any form fit to be sitting around a table to make decisions for people. And
Right.
that is why we would have invited you to this program, so that you can be able to clarify. But as I
Yeah.
said, we have the Shadow Minister of Local Government and Regional Development, and I think he might want to have an input also, so that tonight we nail the final nail in this situation, so that people would better understand it is not a decision that would have been taken by the mayor of New Amsterdam, but that would have been the process as followed and as laid out in Chapter 2801. MP.
You know, Sir Dennis, let me tell you this. All the people who are serving in their respective local government organs as mayors, deputy mayors, councillors, or at the NDC level as councillors and chairman of NDCs that belong to the APNU and more so the PNC family, I am very proud of them. As
Yes.
their as their point person on local government and regional development, I'm extremely proud of them. And I've told Mayor McIntosh this before, and I'm saying it here openly because they make my work so much more easy or easier. They make my work easier because a matter like this, one would have thought that I would have to come out and speak openly and defend and push forward and so on. But I knew, as the PPP they themselves know too, that Mayor McIntosh followed the law to its letter. He followed 2801. He ensured that the motion was debated, it was put, it was voted on, and the majority had their say. And that is admirable of the mayor. He did not institute himself or advance himself as the almighty power to be and take any decision. It was a council's decision. And that council's decision stand irrespective of what Sonia Parag and Jagdio wants to say on their daily circus show that they would normally have. You see, if Sonia Parag and Jagdio had the ability to understand what is embarrassment, they would have been ashamed of themselves because they know that they should not be speaking about this matter in the context of it having followed the prescribed procedure. Let's advance it now to the National Assembly. Both of you, Sir Dennis and Mia McIntosh, know that 6 members of parliament were suspended by the National Assembly, as they claim, but we did not have due process being followed, and they were jumping on their high horses talking about they did what they had to do and so on. When they suspended the 6 MPs from the coalition side, it was a matter of Gail Teixeira standing up, putting a motion as catered for in the standing order. The motion went straight to the Privileges Committee. A hearing was not constituted. We were not given a chance to debate anything. There was
What?
no justification. A month or two after it came back to the floor, Gail again stood up and moved for us to be suspended, went straight into the vote. And these are the people who want to now stand up and argue against the suspension of one of their members, talking about um, due process and all of these things. And due process was given in accordance with 2801.
And the mayor
So,
did observe
Mayor,
2801.
yes, so the mayor, you did the right thing by following 2801 and allowing your council to do make that decision. They, the PPP, didn't follow the parliamentary standing order and practices because if they had done that, the MPs they suspended would have been given an opportunity to be heard. Because in any democracy, you're innocent until proven otherwise, and you're allowed to defend yourself before a decision is made. But it was nothing of the sort. So I want to say to the mayor, hold strong. You did the right thing. You followed 2801, and your council made a decision, and that decision has to stand.
Yes.
And I want
Thank
to
you very
further
much.
tell you that Sonia Parag and Anand Pasad and the REO and the chairman of your region, they have no right to interfere in the way the work is going on at the municipality of at the New Amsterdam municipality. The system of governance in this country has three tiers: local government, regional government, and central government. And local government is administered by 2801. Regional government is administered by Chapter 2809. And central government is governed by the National Assembly, so to speak, in terms of making policies and directions and so on. The executive execute. So Sonia Parak can't interfere with your work. And
Thank you.
the chairman can't interfere with your work. When they come to your office there or they come to the municipality of New Amsterdam and they feel as though they want to be barbaric and they want to be authoritative and so on, chase them out. That is your tongue. Chase them out. That's what I can tell you to do. If they only behave in a haphazard, barbaric, and authoritative manner. But if they come peaceful, be a human being and entertain them because we are not known for that kind of behavior unless it is needed.
Yes. Thank you very
But
much
you see,
for
yeah,
if
you go
I may
ahead,
say,
Mayor.
yes, if I may say, Article 74(1) of the Constitution states that it shall be the primary duty of local democratic organs to ensure the efficient management and development of their area and to provide leadership
Mhm.
by example. To provide leadership by example. Now, this barbaric kind of behavior pattern.
But may I go on to read Article 75 before you speak on it? 75 speaks to Parliament shall provide the local democratic organs shall be autonomous. Local democratic organs shall be autonomous. That means you're fully independent and take decisions which are binding upon their agencies and institutions and upon the communities and citizens of their area. So that's why I tell you that you're autonomous. And if they come in a manner that is very unbecoming, chase them out.
Yes, thank you for complimenting Article 71, 74(1) of the Constitution, MP. Um, what is playing out here actually to hoodwink the situation? The mayor is being asked to address financial issues. Now, from my understanding, the mayor does not handle the council's coffers. So there's allegation of mismanagement and misappropriation of funds. Now, every month in this very statutory booklet, the Treasurer's Department would place report, the financial report for every ensuing month in this very statutory booklet here, which provides a breakdown of the income and expenditure for the ensuing month. So the narrative out there to compensate for this suspension is to place the municipality in a negative light. Um, Further to that, these very councillors, you only see them during the statutory meeting once per month to support the activities of the municipality. They're never present. Look, today, the health departments, or rather the various departments within the municipality, would have collaborated on a cleanup campaign along Main Street, New Amsterdam, all the way to Garrison Road in the vicinity of the Kanji Bridge area. Not one of those councillors were present, but every month at statutory meeting, they come in like dictators to say what must be done, what should not be done. Now, we will not entertain that. I would have opened the doors for collaboration. I do not leave any councillor out from any decision making processes. I ensure democracy prevails within the walls and outer walls of the municipality chambers. So I'm more than happy to be working with every sitting councillor, but when it comes to bringing the council into disrepute, I stand firm on that. No councillor will bring this municipality into disrepute. Quite recent, the trend and practices when it comes to members of the constabulary ranks carrying out their duties and responsibilities, PPP councillors intercepting these constabulary ranks from carrying out their duties and responsibilities. It is very evident in the various newscasts. One constabulary rank complained bitterly of being harassed in his uniform. So this barbaric kind of attitude and behavior pattern will not prevail under my watch. You must come with
And
decorum when you're holding certain offices. The next generation they're looking on.
Mayor,
Yeah,
let me tell you something.
FP.
I'm tell you this publicly, openly, on advancing the cause with our host Dennis Jaikaran, and who has a wealth of knowledge in local government also. No single councillor, and listen to me carefully, no single councillor has any executive authority in your municipality. The executive authority within the confines of 2801 is vested in the council of itself.
Correct.
So when you sit there as mayor and you have your deputy mayor and all the councillors around that horseshoe table, that is the executive authority. So, for example, the passage of that motion to suspend Carol Trim Bagot, that was a decision of the board or a decision of the council. So even you singularly can't overturn that. It was a decision of the council, and only the council of itself can overturn it. Collectively, the authority is with you guys. But this is the other part that you ought to know. In between councils, and I'm sure Sir Dennis knows where I'm going. In between councils, and you also know where I'm going to. If there's a council meeting today, and the next one is next month, the 10th, from today after the end of that council meeting to next month, the 10th, the authority of the council lies with you as mayor. And whatever decisions you take, it will then be ratified at the next council meeting. But you
Statutory.
hold
meet it.
that
Yeah.
power of the council in between council. So if there is any singular councillor, Carol Trim Bagot or whoever, that believe they can do things in there and get off, you have the authority to instruct the constable to arrest. So no single councillor must never believe that they possess ultimate power because they're a councillor. They come into being with their authority when they sit at that horseshoe table. That's why they're temporary. You were the permanent person there as mayor and the deputy mayor. You have the authority in between council. So if you believe a single councillor who is a resident, first and foremost, of New Amsterdam, and wants to be disrespectful and wants to use the authority of being a councillor, they can be arrested on your instruction once they are violating and breaking the rules of the municipality and the standing orders of the municipality and the laws of the country. And at your next statutory, you will inform the council, and you can even get the police involved, eh? And your constable can hold, and they will then inform the police, and the police take the necessary actions and quote the law that they have broken, charge, and put them before the court. At your next council, you will inform the council what transpired, and then they will ratify because you acted with the authority that you were vested with in between council. That's what I
So,
wanted to get to
gentlemen,
your
we
ears.
are at crunch time now, and I give each of you half a minute to your final remarks, and then I'll close the program. So, let us start with the mayor of the town of New Amsterdam. His Worship, your closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Comrade Jai Curran. Now, what I wish to say in 30 seconds, the AP and new councillors, we're committed to serving our citizens of New Amsterdam, and we will continue to serve without fear or favor. We will continue to serve with distinction. And that
Thank
is
you
my
very much,
message
Mayor.
across New Amsterdam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. MP, your closing remarks.
For Guyana to grow, the PPP must go.
And so we would have had your close. So, viewers, let me make very quickly. Let me say this. One, that when the mayor made that decision, there is around all the media houses that the mayor is X, Y, and Z, whatever words they call him, whether dictator, what have you. But let me remind the viewers that when the GTU executive convened an unconstitutional meeting to make certain decisions in the absence of the general secretary and a number of other executive members, Jack Dale said that that meeting was legal and binding. And I'm making this point to indicate that what is wrong is legal and binding for that part. But what is right, absolutely right for the mayor, is not right for them. And so, viewers, I think we would have had a long 1 hour and a half discussion. And I want to indicate to these two gentlemen that this is not going to be the last time you are appearing on this program, but it is going to come sometime when we would ask you to be back on this program. So, viewers, I want to thank you very much. And I want to say good night to all of you, and may God bless you. Thank you very
Good
much,
night.
MP Mike
Good night.
Paul. Thank you very much, His Worship, the Mayor, the Lord
Most
Mayor
welcome.
of the town of New Amsterdam. Thank you very much.
Most welcome.
Thank you
Thank you
very
for having
much,
us.
Ario. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, mentor.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.